Well, good morning. Good morning, everybody. How are you? Well. Here it is, Tuesday. I don't know about you, but this week is lackluster so far for me. Only because all weekend long, when you woke up here in Naperville, Illinois, the sun was beaming, shining so brightly that I couldn't wait to get my day started. Now, Monday and Tuesday has been kind of gloomy, and that makes me just feel like dragging behind. How about you? What do you do on those days when you wake up and you just need you? I wish there was like a crank in my back or in my somewhere on my person that you could just wind me up and get me going. Oh, wait, there is. It's called coffee. Perfect time to welcome to the show my sidekick, Miss Lucy McGillicuddy Ricardo. Thank you, girl. Thank you. Oh, it's still just not the same now that Travel Lucy, has moved on to Tumblr heaven. Yes, for those of you who were waiting for the funeral pictures, because we really did. Where's her casket? Her casket's somewhere around here. We actually had a service for Lucy, Tumblr Lucy, the taller of the twins, and it was so sad. I just couldn't. Brian and I both agreed it would probably be best not to post the pictures. It was just too much of a trigger for many of you. Hmm. But we do have a new addition to the show. Here he is, miniature Stretch Armstrong, which was mailed to me by superfan Mary R. from Lansing, Michigan. She's a librarian there, and she sent this because she knows that my good friend Captain Kangaroo is the only person who knew where all of my Stretch Armstrong bodies were buried. So now, and as you see, I finally took him out of the package, and it has been 4 days, and I still have not put him under the knife. So I may have outgrown that desire to. Okay, let me change the subject because he's starting to look pretty good. But anyway, good morning to you and welcome to the show. Welcome to Bathrobe Moments. I'm your host, Lauren Michaels Harris. If you're still, for whatever reason, out on the front porch, what are you doing? Get in here, take your shoes off, wipe your feet off, but get in here. We have a great show for you today. But remember, um, I want you to, if at any point during the day, during the show, you hear something, you feel something, you read something on your screen that just moves you, that's your opportunity to be a part of something bigger than yourself. And that means this. Oh, wait a minute. I'm moving this camera over here because I'm all behind the there. Is this? It's the bell of purpose. It means that every time I feel like, wow, either the guest or one of you put something on the screen that really touches my spirit, I'm going to hit this bell and let you know it's time to throw some love on the screen and thumbs and hearts. And also, it's a great opportunity to invite someone. Hit the invite button, share, start a watch party. Let people know there's some great content here and you don't want to miss it. That's how you can become a part of something greater than yourself. Today, we are streaming live, of course, across Facebook, YouTube, Roku, Android, Apple TV, Periscope, and of course, from our home base in Arizona, E360 TV Live. And I want to welcome a new sponsor this week. It's her second day with us. It is Chris Cash Homes, where realtor and interior designer, she's double trouble. Chris Cash doesn't just provide you her services, Chris also provides you access to your dreams. Chris Cash would love for each of you. Now, I have a copy of it. If I can find it, here it is. I have a copy. Chris would love, and I love this magazine. Chris Cash would love for all of you to have a free subscription to her very own magazine, which is entitled American Lifestyle. All you have to do is get me or get to her, get to Chris, your name and home address, and you can get a free subscription, no obligation, totally free to American Lifestyle. How do you do it? You email Chris at Christina, Christina, cash, just like the money, at KW, that's Kermit Williams com, and she will get that to you, or just give her a call at area code 630-234-1770. It's Chris Cash Homes and Keller Williams Infinity, bringing home your dreams and more. So there you go. So been a lot of buzz around today's guest. Now, he's been here before. You see, he's donning, I got that picture of him in his bathrobe, and his name is Kevin Hoffman. He is the real life breathing version of the character Randall, which you all know from um, what is the show, everybody? You know what it is. That's right. This is us. He is that guy. And wait a minute. I'm trying to do something here. Let me move. Uh, boy, I need to. what is it with my? Okay, I'm gonna go right here. He wrote a book some years ago, and it's now on another printing. I think it's second printing, and it is entitled "Growing Up Black and White." And I would love to get started because once I get started talking about this story, I can't stop. But I think nobody can tell it better than Kevin Hoffman. So let me get him in here, and let's just get started. Kevin, you're going to feel some tingling in your uh, somewhere on your person, and that will be you um, breaking up into a billion tiny pieces and moving across the airwaves to land right here. And I'm gonna move me. Oh, hold on, you guys. I'm not liking the way I'm looking. I am not liking it at all. Okay, well, I'll leave it there. Uh, there we go. So Kevin, here we go. Get ready. Hold on to your bootstraps. There you are. You're in the middle of the air, moving across. Man, you got here fast. You must eat clean. Some people take like a long time to recompose and all of that. So welcome to the show. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
I'm not bad. I'm not bad. I'm good. I'm good. Keeping it real. I'm good. You know how it is. I'm just saying. Some mornings you wake up and you're like, uh, I could have stayed asleep for a lot longer, or I just wish I was on a beach somewhere.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
exactly.
was kind of me today, but I'm dealing with it. I'm excited about you being here, and I'm excited about your story. So,
Yeah.
tell us what's going on. Tell everybody where you're from, a little bit about your background, and then let's get right into it.
Okay. So I grew up in Detroit, born 2 weeks after the riots in '67. Born to a white woman, black man. They worked together in one of the GM plants
Hmm.
in Loren, Michigan, a suburb of Detroit. Uh, I like to say they fell madly in love in the cafeteria that they worked at in the plant, and I was the result of an affair between those two. My white mother went home to her white husband, announced she was pregnant, and his I guess the deal was she could have me, but she would have to give me up right away. So
Oh
so,
wow,
so she immediately gave me up for adoption, transported me from the hospital to the foster home, and I was adopted at 3 months old by a white minister, his wife, and they have three biological children. So I'm the youngest of those four.
wow. Okay, so an affair. Very interesting. Very interesting. Let me ask you this. Because I want you to get in, just tell the story the way I know it goes. But tell the viewers this. At what point did you realize that you were different?
I think I always knew the. So I am what's called a transracial adoptee. So basically, I'm adopted by a family, and our skin colors don't match. So I always knew. I could always see that I wasn't the same. Um, yeah, I was at a conference recently, and someone after the conference, I was reading some of the comments that someone said, "Wow, he was an interesting story, and he didn't know he was different." No, I always knew I was different. Um, yeah, it was just it's a physical difference. Skin color is a physical difference. Kids
Right,
that
right.
early.
So for people who don't know, because I've read the book and I've heard the story, and people just really get behind what you're doing, and you've been through a lot. Your family's been through a lot.
Yeah.
Take us back to the cross burning, because there's not many people. I mean, I watch Mississippi Burning and stuff like that, a John Grisham show or something. Yeah, and I'm a black man too, but I've never experienced a cross burning. I wouldn't have even thought that that was still would have even been possible in your lifetime or my lifetime, but it was in your case, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I was adopted at 3 months old, taken back home with my new adoptive family to Dearborn, Michigan, a suburb of Detroit, a very white suburb of Detroit. And when I was about 11 months old, we woke up to a 6 foot tall cross burning in our front yard. And that was kind of the community's way of saying welcome.
Welcome. Instead of a stork, it's a boy.
Exactly. Right. Yeah.
Here's a burning cross. It's a inward.
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly.
So, um, so of course at 11 months old, you don't remember, peering from your bassinet or your crib to see it burning out the window. So someone had to have told you about that morning or that night. Who was it, and how did they introduce that to you, and why?
Yes, so that happened, like I said, when I was 11 months old. When I was probably 40 or over 40,
Oh,
I sat down to write this book. And so I asked, that was the one thing we didn't get right growing up was we didn't talk about adoption and we didn't talk about race. It wasn't designed that way. It just happened. I think again, my parents didn't have any role models before them. There weren't too many white families adopting children of color before us. It was
wow.
out there, but there wasn't. They didn't have resources like you do now with the internet. Um, and so yeah, we just impact. I think my parents just didn't understand what they were walking into, and how could they? Uh, in the community, in the church, my father was a Lutheran minister. In the church that we belong to in Dearborn, St. Paul's Lutheran Church, it's still there. I've been back. Um,
Oh,
they really struggled with having this child of color in their church. So the
have have
community
you
objected to it, the
have,
church
ha
objected to it.
I gotta ask, because I would that's the first place I'd be knocking on the door. Can I come here and speak? Did have you? Because there's probably still some people, kids and grandchildren of people that
Yeah,
were there that
yeah,
still go to that church that might even remember the
right.
scandal. Did have you ever gone back and let them know who you are?
Yes, when the book came out, 10 the first edition came out 10 years ago, I stopped by the church, and actually my father was still alive, and it would have meant a whole lot to him to be able to kind of repair what went on there. Uh, so a large part of me was doing it for him. I remember
Mhm.
walking into the church and standing at the counter, and there were these two white women sitting there folding the bulletins for the church service coming up.
Mhm.
And one of them looked up, looked me dead in my face, and went right back to what she was doing.
No
And I just thought,
acknowledgement.
no, and I just thought, wow, it hasn't changed. The interesting thing is, so we lived in Dearborn, a suburb of Detroit. Uh, they were considered a closed community in the late '60s, which unofficially they didn't want people of color inside the city or living in the city. Um,
Oh, well,
the
that's a lot different now.
Yeah, the poetic justice today is Dearborn is the largest Muslim community outside the Middle East. so, so I live in church. So it's this white church in the middle of this very large Muslim community. So I said, you
Go
can
figure.
ignore me, but
Yes.
yeah, look who got the last laugh.
Yes, yes. There we go. Listen,
Yeah.
for those of you who are just joining us, good morning to Robert Brooker, D. Ball, Robin Lynn, and the rest of you. Good morning, everybody. Now's a great time to hit the share button. This is a riveting story about racism then and now, and you don't want to miss it. It's a conversation we all need to have, and I do mean all. So, who do you know right now who can benefit from hearing what we're about to get into here on Bathrobe Moments? We got Kevin Hoffman, the author of the book Growing Up Black and White, a real life version of the character Randall, which we all know from the show This Is Us. So we're going to talk about some comparisons today from that character to Kevin's real life to find out how right did they get it, or maybe not. So hit the live button, won't you? Hit the share button, rather. I hit the live button. You hit the share button. Start a watch party. Invite people. Get them here so that we can have that conversation. It's the only way we're going to do better is to get in here and talk about it together. So won't you do that? Be a part of something greater than yourself. So Kevin, let's talk about that. I'm sure you've seen the show, of course, because you had a little, you've been in that you knew Randall was coming before we did.
You mean yeah,
To
it's
the
been interesting. People have really struggled with that subject in the movies and on TV with how do we do this? How do we present this correctly?
right.
I was pleasantly surprised, especially the first season. The first season of This Is Us really concentrates on what it was like for Randall to be this transracial adoptee. Um, uh, of portraying what that life is like.
Hmm.
I also, and this is my own opinion, I have a hard time believing some of the stuff in that TV series wasn't inspired by a book that this one transracial adoptee wrote, which is me. I mean, there's
Oh,
not,
you.
yeah, there's not many books on transracial adoption out there. And I also have a good friend who was the consultant. She's also a transracial adoptee, and she consults for the show.
So,
So at
okay,
the very least, I know she had mentioned, "Hey, I know Kevin. He wrote this book. You might want to check it out."
right. So when you look at I don't know how religiously you watch, we don't miss it. Um, are there moments in that show? Because they do it, in my opinion, they do a great job. But that's from my perspective too. So it may not be great at all, but
Right.
it does a great job for me, wherein it allows me to stand in Randall's shoes from time to time as a person, and it reminds me because I'm not transracial adoptee, but I am an adoptee. I am a foster alumni, and I do remember those feelings of standing somewhere, uh, participating from the outside, looking in.
Hmm.
And people, it's not that they were purposely excluding me.
Hmm.
Sometimes it was just the set, it was the scenario, it was just the truth of the moment that put me outside and gave me, a vision, or a seat from the outside looking in. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. So when you watch that show, does any moment stick out to you that where you go, wow, that's really it right there. That's spot on. Or maybe that's
There's,
completely wrong.
there's several, especially like I said in the first season. So there's a season or there's a show where they're at the pool
Oh,
and Randall,
I remember that.
yeah, Randall's really struggling with who he is, and his mom wants to put him in connection with someone like him. And yeah, there's one of the biggest issues in the transracial community is hair and skincare. And so Randall's mom gets up the courage to go up to this black woman and start a conversation. And I thought it was really good that the show didn't make it easy. Like the black woman was very suspect about her initially. And then initially lets her in. And I thought they did that well. And when I do training, that's what I often tell my transracial parents is you got to make that move. There's if you don't know it, understand that there is this rub between the black community and the transracial community.
Right.
And it comes down to the fact that there are several in the black community that feel you have come into our community, taken our children, and now you don't even know how to raise them. You can't even do their hair right.
Right.
And
But
so,
then on the other hand, too, it's like, who are we to judge or say, I mean, I'd rather be a black kid with nappy head
mhm,
in a loving family than to, have somebody that knows how to, pick my hair or braid my hair, um, because they work in the group home
yeah,
that I'm in. I mean, that's just my personal choice, you
yeah.
know. So I mean, what is it we're really bitching about? I want to ask you something about
I think we can have both.
I think we can have both as well. Now, listen, I want you guys out there today. I mean, really share this out. Dr. Vicky Omofalaji, welcome. Charmaine Floyd, Miss Love, Miss Self Love, welcome to the show. You guys really share this out. This is important because Kevin and I are actually a part of. We're putting together a road show with some other people that are heavy hitters in the foster and adoption world here in the United States, and we have a goal of going on the road. I think it's what is it? Is it 6 states, 6 cities, Kevin?
Yeah, at
5 or
least.
6, 5 or 6. And our goal is to recruit 122,000 families who are willing to at least throw their hat in the ring to try to adopt 122,000 foster kids, and give them forever homes. Now, Kevin, let's talk about this. Um, a lot of people, let's stick to the transracial adoptee thing for a moment, just for a moment. A lot of people, how does it make you feel when you started, I think, back with Angelina Jolie, and for hi UI Tim, how are you, Tim? My buddy from Atlanta, Tim Ray, welcome to the show. uh how do you feel how did you feel then and how do you feel now? I'm getting at the point where it became almost like like a fad, if you will. It was fashionable, let's say, to be a white parent or some other color and adopt a black kid. But usually they're adopting them from some other country, which, in
Yeah.
my opinion, is kind of adding insult to injury. Because there's tons of black kids. If you just got to have a black kid, what about the one that's right down the street in your own town? Why did you have to go all the way to Africa?
Right.
You know, so talk about that because I know you've spoken on that.
Yeah. So really back in the 80s and 90s, we were like the Gucci bag, kids, children of color from a different country became, like I said, the Gucci bag for a lot of Hollywood celebrities. Um, it appeared that way, I'll say that. Uh, yeah, that was interesting. Yeah, it just seemed like, yeah, the Jolies, or Angelina Jolie did it. Tom Cruise, Nicole Kidman, they did it.
Hmm.
And you're right, they did. They would find, and then it just seemed like the further you went, the more precious your Gucci bag was. Like if you know, yeah,
Right,
yeah. And
right. The
so,
most obscure country,
yeah,
right,
exactly
right,
right.
right.
Yeah, the smallest, darkest country. I think it's interesting now because it's shut down. They don't want to adopt to America, and so then
To
what do you like?
outsiders.
Yeah, and so that's what's interesting. And you and I both know we started looking at the numbers in foster care. And especially in the last 5 to 10 years, a lot of borders from other countries have shut down. You can't adopt from them anymore. But that didn't really change the figures in the United States wherein it should have. So it's just
Right,
supply and demand. We shut down this supply. Something should have increased. The adoptions, you would assume, domestically should have increased dramatically, and they haven't.
right. Now, let me
Yeah.
ask you this. In your travels of transracial adoptee and speaking on those stages and meeting with those families and things, wh- are there black families who are adopting white children? And
Yeah,
if so, is it just as easy for a person of color to get a child who is of a different skin tone or different race as it is for a white family to get a black child? How's
I
that
think
looked at? How's that looked at?
I well, it's very minimal. So, I've done this for 10 years and probably count on one hand people who've come up to me and said, "Hey, we're a black couple, we've adopted a white kid." It does happen. It just doesn't happen at the rate, yeah, of white people adopting children of color.
Now,
Is it
okay,
easier? I don't know. I mean, that's one of the problems with the foster care system is I don't know if it's easy for anybody. I mean, it
yeah,
should be tough, but it just seems, I've been able to be a part of the training, and it just seems like we throw a lot at them over a long period of time. Not a whole lot sticks because all they want to do is get through the training, get their kid, and leave.
right.
And then that's the other thing too is we do a horrible job with post-adoptive care. And really, I mean, when my parents adopted me in '67, they were basically, my dad writes the $175 check to for the processing fee, and they're sent home. No one follows up, nothing. And
Oh,
there's a lot of
wow.
areas today where that's still the same,
So
50
when
some years later.
when you say post-adoption care, give us an example of what that means.
So, you're this new family, just adopted a child. Someone should be still guiding you and saying, okay, you might run into this, or when you run into this, or if you have issues, somebody you can go to and say, hey, this is happening, or what should we like? So many people have done this before them. It shouldn't be hard. We should be
Right.
able to say, okay, this is what you should expect. And that doesn't really happen
Wow.
because if it did, quite honestly and selfishly, I'd just be doing that all the time. I'd just be going around training families in post-adoptive care.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And it's just not. That's where we really struggle in this community.
So let's talk about something that the This Is Us storyline doesn't speak to, which is a part of your real experience. There are, of course, tons of connections between the character Randall and you, and for obvious reasons. But your family, even though you were brought home to an upscale white neighborhood, that switched, that turned around, and your dad, your mom, moved you and your white siblings into the inner city, where
Yeah.
all of a sudden everything was reversed.
Mhm.
And I'm curious about that because I wonder, had you stayed in Dearborn, would you possibly be married to a white woman today as opposed to a black woman? And do you think moving to the hood, if you will, uh, had a lot to do with you becoming being able to embrace your black heritage? And then also, it's a loaded question. There's a lot here. What about your three white siblings? How how fair was it to them to have to grow up in the hood? And do they hold that against you?
Yeah, so they moved when I was 3 years old to the yeah, to a lower middle class neighborhood in Detroit where all my friends were black. The schools we went to from ever since I can remember to when I graduated from high school, they were 95, 98% black. So I was always around kids that looked like me. That was life changing. Um, yeah, I grew up in the 70s where there weren't a whole lot of positive black role models. Um, yeah, so when you turned on the TV, you pretty much saw the same character with different names. J.J. Evans
I
from
was
Good
just gonna say JJ,
with
Raj,
Dynamite. He was the jive talking black kid. Yeah, George Jefferson, the jive talking dry cleaner sales,
right, right.
and Fred Sanford, the jive talking junk dealer. So they were all the same character, and so I was so thankful that I got to grow up around these kids, and they showed me all the different hues that black was, and I wanted to. And man, shout out to this kid. I haven't seen him in years. Wish I could find him. Derek Herbert. He was my best friend across the street from me in that black neighborhood. And he was what I call the Don of that neighborhood. So when we first got there, Derek told all the other black kids, this is my dude, don't mess with him. And he protected me. And I wanted to grow up and be just like Derek. And
Wow.
he became a superhero to me. And so when we talk about that kind of that friction between the two communities, the black community and the transracial community, um, what they're really concerned is, you're taking these children and they're not going to grow up knowing who they are, and their racial identity is going to be all messed up.
Mhm, mhm.
Man, Derek and those kids in that black neighborhood and the kids in the black schools I went to, I wanted to be like them. So much so that I felt bad for my white brothers and sisters because they weren't black. And that's a pretty healthy racial identity.
Wow.
And it was. So it was great for me because all I was able to do is go outside and see people like me. But it was a struggle for my brothers. Yeah, they any time, and it's unfortunately this is a horrible part of human nature, which is those in mass will attack those, the lesser numbers. And so my brothers were the minority in that neighborhood. So especially my one brother, I remember he would often get, harassed and chased home and, come in the house crying.
So did he ever resent you for their being there?
Yeah, I think he resented the situation he had to grow up in. Um, yeah, that's another part we don't do so well in the adoption foster care community is we don't really give families guidance as to we push so much about the adoptee, we don't do a good job of saying, how about we help you raise this whole family now? And
Yeah.
that's what should have happened. We should have, and I think my parents looked at our family like we're this white family that just happened to have adopted a black child. It was, although these terms weren't back then, but it would have been better to look at us like this multicultural family where all cultures and all people should be celebrated.
Yeah.
Uh,
Do you feel that the show This Is Us, um, it made its way in onto the scene at the right time, a decade too late, too soon, or how do you feel about that? And how did you feel when you first heard that, okay, now somebody's finally going to tell this story?
I was excited because, like I said, people have tried before and just done a horrible job at it. So I think the timing was finally right to do it because they did it right in so many ways. I mean, of course, they struggle with some things, but man, they're Randall and Kevin. So Kevin is Randall's white brother on the show, and especially in that first season, man, there was some real tension between those two,
Mhm.
and man, that really reminded me of that with one of my brothers. I thought they did that good. The tension that they
Excuse
showed
me.
between Randall's mother and her mother, her grandmother, I thought was spot on. And that again reminded me a lot of the issues that my mother had with her own mother.
Yes, yes. Talk about that for a minute, and then we're going to change gears about some current day things and go back to some of the things we were talking about earlier about what we're trying to do in this next year. Talk about that. You had some real special moments with your maternal grandmother, I believe, near the end of her life.
Yeah, so all throughout her life, she really struggled with the fact that she had this black child. I think my grandmother saw herself as this socialite, and liked to move in those upper middle class white communities.
Hmm.
And so she had a real hard time of how do I fit in this community? And I've got this child, this grandson who's black, and really struggled all throughout her life.
Wow.
And I think what she did is compartmentalized it and said, he's not really black. And that's just how she had to deal with it. And so she, I don't, wouldn't say we were close. We weren't distant, but we weren't close either. And towards the end of her life, uh, she had gotten sick, and I remember going to see her in the nursing home she was in. And I didn't like to going to see her late on in her life, because every time I would walk in, she would tell me how fat I was getting, and I just got so sick of that. And so this was the last time I was there with my wife and two kids, and she was in and out of consciousness, and she woke up and she saw me standing at the end of the bed, and she said, "Boy, you look okay." And that went
Boy.
right over my head. I
Boy.
didn't even think about
Was
it.
it
And
like, boy, you look okay? Or was it,
it was just really
boy,
calm. Like, that's
boy,
a
you
good thing.
look okay, boy?
And it was
Something.
like, she wasn't calling me a boy,
Okay, let's
but
just
I think,
clarify, y'all. 'Cause
you know, you know, I think she was finally coming to terms with it, and I didn't pick that up during that time. And then on the drive home, my wife said, you do understand what she was telling you, right?" And then finally, throughout her whole life, she had finally come to terms with it and said, "Man, you're okay."
You're okay.
And that was a beautiful thing. And I haven't talked about this as much, but it was a beautiful thing for her to kind of release me and go do what I needed to do. I mean, so many things have happened in my life where it's just been a stepping stone. My birth mother wanted to have an abortion, or went to have an abortion, changed her mind. She had me. She hands me off to a foster. She had me, and I think she understood I've done as much as I can for him. And then it was like this big relay race for me. So then she hands,
I'm shocked that you made it into
yeah,
this world
yeah,
because when you look at the times,
yeah,
1965, a white woman married to a white man, a
yeah,
black man married to a black woman, and the
yeah,
black man and the white woman get together because jungle fever took over,
yeah.
and everybody's lives are changed forever, just like that. And
Yes. And I don't think many would have objected if her husband had gone at her in a very violent way,
yeah,
because yeah, there was not a whole lot of protection for cheating spouses, quite honestly.
and back then, I mean, anytime, I mean, a lot of white men during the civil rights era, I mean, just think, and maybe even in general, if woman, you slept with a black man and you think you're going to come back into my bed,
Exactly.
but
Right.
he stayed with her
Yeah, they so
and
that
allowed her to have the baby.
yeah, and they were married when she died in early 2000.
That's really, now, did you ever meet them?
No, I never met her. Um, I've met a sister, a brother. I have two other brothers from my biological mother that did not want to meet.
Mm.
Met nieces, I've met aunts and uncles. Um, yeah, and it's just been this really interesting. That's been really hard to navigate too.
Sure.
You see all these shows on TV about search and reunion, and the reunion's great, and everyone loves each other, but no
Not
one ever
always.
those families afterwards, or gives you guidance as to how you create these connections.
Yes, yes, that was my experience. I thought it was going to be like the show Soul Food, you know,
Exactly.
That's exactly what I
Yeah,
expected.
yeah, yeah.
And I mean, we actually had that day where everyone flew in or drove in to meet me and all
Mhm.
that, but that's as far as it went.
Yeah,
After that,
yeah, and
it was
yeah,
like, you know,
if you've
because they
ever
all
seen
thought I had been they all thought
Antoine's
I was
picture,
dead. Huh?
yeah. Well, yeah, so did yeah, that was the line everyone got that knew about me was, "Yeah, he died."
That oh, you too?
But yeah,
Yeah,
I agree. If yeah, when I when I was searching, I was like, okay, and I found sisters and brothers, and they were significantly older than me. I have a sister who's closest to me, who's 8 years older than me. So then I'm thinking, okay, at 8 years old, did I know what being pregnant was? Because she was around our mother who was pregnant. And then so I started, and I had 20 years to really think every scenario possible for, you know, my birth mom and their family. And so I thought, okay, how do you have it, or how are you pregnant, go to the hospital, and come home without a baby? And the logical answer is, well, yeah, you just tell everybody the baby died. And so when I met my sister, that's what she said. She said, I remember our mother being pregnant, going to the hospital. I went to stay with grandparents, and then she came home without a baby. And then several years later, we were standing in the kitchen. And I asked our mother, where is the baby buried? And our mother said, I don't know. And my sister said that didn't sit right with me. And so when our mother was dying, she approached an aunt and said, tell me the real story. I remember her pregnant.
Whew.
What happened? And the aunt told her.
Mm. Wow. Wow. So a lot in there, but you know what? You just like me and so many others that are adoptees that are actually alumni, either aged out or some were adopted from the system. We all it's like Joseph in the Technicolor rain what is it?
Technicolor
Technicolor
Dreamcoat.
Dreamcoat. I was gonna say raincoat.
You know?
So, you know, so it is there's so many different patterns to the experience. It's a tapestry of life. It truly, truly is. Now, this thing that you and I are so blessed to be a part of, One Voice for Change, where we are combining our resources and our stories with some other people who are doing the same thing around the country. And our goal is to get out there over a year-long period or shorter and recruit at minimum 122,000 families to adopt our kids who are languishing in the foster care system. And we're going to bring to the table, we're going to start having conversations with people that don't know about some of the things that foster care children are dealing with. For instance, sex trafficking. 60 to 90% of foster kids are experiencing some form of sex trafficking. Then there's also identity theft, which is running rampant. People stealing the identities of foster kids before they have a chance in life. So, Kevin, you know, you do a lot of training at schools and whatnot about diversity and inclusion. So, tell us what is pissing you off the most about the lack of the needle moving. I know I have my set of things that I just, if I could just get up in Washington and just punch a few people in the gut, or slap the dog shit out of them. I'm just gonna keep it real about, like, for instance, for me, it's trash bags. How in the hell are we still
Yeah.
giving kids trash bags in the year 2020, and they gave them to me in the mid 70s? How is that even possible? But so tell us, what are some of the things you'd like to see changed yesterday about our broken system known as foster care?
Man, just the way we look at it, you know, who's adoptable, who's not. I actually worked in the child welfare system for about a year, trying to find families to connect with, children that needed to be adopted. And man, one of the last meetings I ever had at that job, I remember going into the agency and saying, look, I found this woman who's interested in adopting this child. It was a teenager. And the response I got from
Oh,
the adoption worker was, well, we don't even spend our teenage adopt those 5 and under. That's where we spend all our adoption energy in a sense. And
So you
I
broke
walked
up. You broke up, Kevin. You broke up, but I think you said she told you we don't spend our adoption energy on older kids.
right. And that's what, and I worked for the Dave Thomas Foundation, Wendy's. And part of our mission was going after those teenagers that everyone says things like that about. But I was so shocked to be in an agency where someone, like, if you ever been in a conversation with someone and they say something and you go, man, you said that out loud.
Yeah, like I wasn't even here.
Yeah. And I was like, so you were so comfortable with saying, yeah, we anything 6 to 18, we're not even going to work on.
That's
And
just
I actually left because of that meeting. Um, it's so broken. That's the and I had to get out because there's so much brokenness in that system. That series on Netflix that's playing now, The Trials of Gabriel Fernandez,
oh.
points out a lot. And that schooled me in. I only thought it was the agency I was working with, that this was their culture. Man, I watched that series, little boy that ends up dead, and there's welfare checks were called. Social workers went out to the house. They didn't do what they were supposed to do, and he ends up dying. His parents beat him to death.
No.
And I just thought, man, it's not just this local system that's broken, it's the whole system.
It's the whole system. It's the whole system. I want to say this because you brought that up, and some of you may know this. I think, Joshua, you've seen it. I actually have a necklace that I had commissioned that has three different stones on it that represent the three little boys who were in my initial foster home, my very first one, the ones who schooled me. And they were 3, 6, and 9-year olds. And when I got out of the system, when I aged out, um, even before I started looking for my birth family, I started looking for them.
Mm,
And I went back to my original caseworker, and she was retired, but she took it on. And it was about 6 months later that she contacted me and asked me to meet her for lunch. And she did, and she goes, "Well, I found them," and I'm all excited. And she goes, "But actually, to make a long story short, all three of them perished within that system." And the reason
oh,
I have that necklace today is because it was what got me through when I first started this, and I was nervous as all get out on stage, and I would just hold on to that necklace and remind myself that I'm not telling my story just because it's a woe is me or my story. I'm speaking for those who cannot speak for themselves now, just like Gabriel Fernandez. And I'm telling you guys, we don't need more congregate care. We don't need more institutions that have those same green mattresses that you'll find in juvie, that you'll find in county jails, that you'll find in prison, that same penitentiary gray that's on the walls and floors of group homes, and the same verbiage, and it's a training center for kids to be passed off. Um, this opiate addiction has made it even worse. And I'm just telling you guys, we need more loving families. And so we are going to give it all we have and get out there and try to shake the bushes and find as many loving people, people who feel they have enough love within them to spare it and share it
yeah,
with these kids who truly, truly have done nothing wrong and deserve a life,
yeah.
to be loved. So, um, so how do you feel about, so did you say what the number one thing about the system is that pisses you off?
The number one thing,
The number
uh,
one thing, if you had a magic wand and could eradicate one thing, just one, because there's a whole plethora of things that are wrong. But what's the one thing that you would change if you could?
uh, one of the big things that upsets me about the system is the disproportionality. So, if you're in an area where there's only 20%, black kids, only 20% of the kids in foster care should be black. And it's twice that across the country. And so, uh, yeah, I wish we could do a better job of that. And a lot of that has to do with it. The same things go on in other communities, and they get so investigated, and, and
Right.
so that's what I like. It's just the and so then so we have this one system that comes into your community and says you're not doing a good job being a parent. We're going to take this child away. But that's also the same system that we expect people to come to and feel safe with and say, "Hey, I do want to adopt because I trust you." That's
Yes.
a really hard sell, especially for the communities of color, because
Yes.
because they look at it like you're this enemy that's come into our system, and now you want me to trust you.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, that's probably now I'm changing my answer. That's probably the biggest thing to change is I don't think you should continue a system like that. I think it should be two separate entities that do two separate things.
Right. Right. Now, let's talk about we've got about 7 minutes left. Um, Private adoption versus free adoption. And
Yeah.
when I say free adoption, I didn't know until we were on our call. One voice for change. That's the name of the movement. Write that down. Number one voice for number four change. And there's a Facebook page. Going to be a website. It's being built or about to become a website. But there is the Facebook page, so please get over and like it. And we're going to start populating it with all kinds of things that most of you will shake your head and go, "I had no freaking idea that this was going on," and that's what we want you to do because we need all the voices. This is a human choir, a stone soup experience where we're all. It's going to take us. We need to take the power back from the government and save our kids. There's a thing in there that you just posted, Kevin, about the protection of animals. Being, there's more protection on animals and fish than there is our children. So let's talk about, if you could, the difference between free adoption and people are paying all these exorbitant fees to do these private adoptions when there's all these wonderful children that you can adopt for free from the foster system. What's going on there?
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, so much of our society is built like that. That man, if you got money, uh, you you get in the shorter line, and that's what private adoption is for a lot of people.
Okay.
But I think we were talking about this yesterday. What an impactful story if you look at both of us when I was born into that situation. Quite honestly, my birth mother lied and said she was Lutheran so that they would put me in the Lutheran Social Services, a private agency, to be adopted. And I think that was a huge difference. And it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be that we have to lie so that this child can be taken care of better, placed sooner, and have less noise around them.
Because of your color, your biracialness, you were considered a hard to place child, right? Just like a kid with a deformity or some other issue.
Yeah. So yeah, and actually, and still in some communities, biracial and children of color are considered hard to place. And yeah, so and back then it was an issue with I wasn't black enough for the black community to adopt me, and I wasn't white, and so the white community didn't want to adopt me. So they were concerned with, again, 2 weeks after the race riots in Detroit, they were concerned with placing this child that wasn't going to be easy to place.
Let me ask you something.
Uh,
Let's say, for instance, a person is mixed, and let's say they're Asian and black. You can
Blockade.
tell by their eyes, yeah, black Asian. So who gets to decide which one of the two you are? No, you're Asian. No, you're black. Because how come when people are black and white, they can't just say I'm white just because they have some black in them? How come they automatically are considered black? Like there's no white in them.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. So when I was growing up, yeah, I knew the white kids weren't going to accept me as white. So
So you never said I'm white.
no, and we joke about that all the time because I get that question all the time. Because I come out and say I identify as black, and man, does that upset a lot of people. And so the question I often get is, well, your mother was white. How come you don't identify? Well, my smart ass answer is, if I were to walk into a room and announce I was white, you would look at me like I'd lost my mind. I don't present as white.
Mm.
And I think that has a lot to do with identity. It's, you're trying to figure out who you are, and then everyone else is trying to figure out who you are and put these labels on you. The fortunate thing with, kids that have, mixed roots today is that they have communities that we just didn't have. There was no biracial community when I was coming up. But yeah, and I think that goes back to slavery and history and the whole one drop rule and that
Sure.
whole.
So, Kevin, though, inside your body, inside your mind, inside your spirit, are there those moments when you're, say, in a place with nothing but white people, where the white side of you says, "Welcome home. I am with my people." Yes, there. I knew there was some white in me. Yes, I could pass me that watercress sandwich. Pass it. Uh, I don't
No,
want
and
sweet
it's
potatoes.
because of
Give me those yams.
that. So no, I feel more at home with people that look like me, and I think that's so much of what has to do with our society. But here's something that's really interesting that I'm coming to terms with lately is, so I do a lot of work in diversity and inclusion.
Mhm.
And you've heard me say this, that I was genetically engineered to work with people on this topic of race, and I think that has been such a strong push for me because I have both in me. So I have black and white in me. And not only am I trying to figure out what that means for me, but I'm also, part of my life's work is, how do we get it so that the two races that are in me can figure it out and get along? Uh,
Amen.
and
Mm.
so that's at 52, it's the most I've identified as biracial.
You're
Uh,
52?
yeah.
Dang, you got it good. See, that's what that black don't crack. See, I had to get that in there. I think that it's absolutely wonderful. Listen, where can people pick up a copy of this book? Because I think it's a must read. Everybody needs to read it to help understand the world we live in a little bit better. So, where can people find it?
So they can find it at my website, growingupblackinwhite.com, or you can find it kevinhoffman.com, and Hoffman is with one F and two N's. Um, and then what I've also done, the book, great platform to speak on, and gave me street cred to go out and speak and train, which I love, but now I'm just trying to expand things. Uh, and so now I've also am working on and still working on what I call diversity wear, which are T-shirts that just give a message.
Like the
So
one you're wearing.
yeah, so the one I'm wearing, you can see it. It says, because I get this a lot: if I don't see color, or if you don't see color, I must be invisible. Because so often we say that, oh, I don't see color. Yeah, I'm not asking you not to see me. See me, and then on the back it
Good one.
says, see me for who I am.
Ah, loving that. Put some hearts on the screen. Kevin,
Yep,
that is abs. Will you put those in, put both of those, all your connectors actually,
yep, yeah.
into the comments so people can get with you? I need to get you on Bathroom Moments After Dark so we can go even deeper
Yeah.
into the subject, and I'll let all of you know when that's going to be. Let's make that happen, shall we? And
Yeah.
we've got 2 minutes left. I just want to say thank you so much for coming on here and opening up our hearts, our minds, our eyes, and the opportunity. You've opened up an opportunity, foremost for us, and I'm so excited to be working with you on not only discover the speaker and author in you over in the Detroit and Toledo area, but also about this thing. Most excited about One Voice for Change. Please get over to our Facebook page and like it and share it out. Number one voice, number four change over on Facebook, where we're going out, and our goal is to recruit 122,000 families to save 122,000 children. I can't wait. Kevin, thank you so much. I love you, man. Keep doing what you're doing and keep changing lives one at a time.
All right, you too. Appreciate you.
Same here. Thank you so much. Well, everybody, man, some days, it seems like the interview can't I almost say can't end quick enough. But then there's days like today where I wish I could go on and on and on. And I just want to thank my guest, Kevin Hoffman, author of Growing Up Black and White. Grab yourself a copy. You will not regret it. It's a real book. It's not some little pamphlet that's got a hardcover on it. It's a real book. Also, I want to say thank you to my sponsor, Miss Chris Cash, helping you find a home and a life by design. Check her out at chriscashhomes.com or give her a call, if you will, so you can get on that mailing list for your own copy of American Lifestyle Magazine. Find her at 630-234-1770. Christina Cash at kellerwilliams.com. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you here tomorrow morning. We'll do it all over again. I'll meet you out front. Our next episode of Bathrobe Moments. Bye.